You quite comfortable there? You know I'm recording. Okay. In this episode of Digital Marketing News, Google loses 20 days worth of data. We tell you what the next big social network's going to be, one of the best uses of AI I have ever seen, plus who's suing Trump now. All that, and believe it or not, KFC are making a smartphone? Seriously, I can't make this stuff up. Plus all the Geek's Muppet of the Week and a tech find that you are never going to want to live without. All that after this very short intro. Welcome to Digital Marketing News for this week, the week ending on July the 16th, 2017. I'm Vince Warnock, otherwise known as Just the Geek, and we're here for AllTheGeek.com, your one source of digital marketing news, everything from social media to search to technology to AI. Look, anything that's geeky is probably going to end up on there at some point. Now, we have a lot of digital marketing news to get through today, so I've got my trusty little post-it notes. These are because, well, let's face it, my memory's not quite what it used to be, and I don't want to miss anything. So we're going to start it off with social media, but before we do, if there's anything in here that you like, you realize, hey, actually, I want to keep up to date on all these kind of things. We do these videos weekly. Make sure you click on that little red subscribe button. Wait, that way, I don't know. Wherever the red subscribe button is, click on that button, click the little notification bell so you don't miss any of our updates. Let's get things rolling. So first up in social media, let's take a look at YouTube. Now this is an interesting one. We're certainly not crying the sky is falling at this stage or anything like that, but it's interesting to note that YouTube's video views have dropped significantly in June. So to give you contrast, in May, the top 10 videos across YouTube had a combined 115 million views. Most of that, or a large portion of that, was made up by a Clash of Clans video, for all my gamer mates out there, which made up 87.7 million views. In stark contrast to that, let's have a look at June. The top 10 videos in June only made up 51.1 million, so under half of that of May's. Now the top video was one called More Than a Refugee, which made up 16.8 million views. And this is cool. It is a collaboration between YouTube and I want to get this name right, the International Rescue Committee. Now don't get too excited. It turns out it has nothing to do with Thunderbirds, but it's still a very cool video and I suggest you check it out. So what does this mean for us? Actually nothing at this stage. YouTube views are still insanely high anyway, but it will be something to keep our eye on. Is it a trend? Obviously 1 month doesn't make a trend, but is it showing something that we're missing here? So why have these views dropped? Or is it just that we are looking at a skewed piece of data, which is those top 10 videos, and actually across all of YouTube, the viewership of all these lesser cat videos and random prank videos, etc., is going up? We'll have to wait and see. Next up for YouTube, this is just more of an aesthetic thing than anything. If you've been on YouTube lately, or certainly since the end of June, you may have noticed a subtle change in the search results. Now this is something that has been rolled out since the end of June, so hopefully it's come to you already. But essentially when you are on the desktop version, unfortunately it doesn't work on mobile, desktop version of YouTube and you search for something, the thumbnails for the results, if you hover over them, actually show an animated GIF. So they give you a mini little preview of what's in the video. Now note there is a few limitations to this. It's only available on latest versions of Chrome or Opera, and at this stage it's only available for videos over 30 seconds in duration. But as I said, it's a nice little aesthetic change and certainly makes it easier. What will be interesting for us as digital marketers is to see how this changes people's click behavior. So essentially, if you're part of the results of the 30 odd videos that are showing there and their thumbnails, how through this little preview can we grab their attention a lot quicker than anyone else? So I'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure you use the comments below and let us know what this means to you, whether it will change your behavior or whether it's just something we keep an eye on at this stage. So next up, Facebook, our favorite social media for sharing fake news. Anyway, Facebook, if you haven't heard of Messenger Lite, you probably should have. Messenger Lite is a cut down version of Facebook Messenger. It's designed specifically for use in areas where there is low internet or low connectivity. So this is a feature that has been trialed in Russia, in Nigeria, in Saudi Arabia, and now Facebook Messenger Lite is being rolled out to India. Now this is a very good thing. So the application itself is under 10 meg in file size, and what it means is that in those areas of India, and if you're unaware of India, India is a highly technological country, it's highly connected, but in the metropolitan areas, in the built-up areas, in the rural areas, which actually make up a large portion of India, they have very low connectivity, very low. My cat is attacking things behind me. He loves to be the center of attention, if you haven't already been able to tell. Anyway, they have low connectivity in those areas, and Facebook Messenger Lite will enable them to have the same kind of ability to have conversations as we do, which, when I think about it, India, what are you thinking? This is not necessarily a good thing. Anyway, next up for Facebook, Facebook on mobile may soon allow us to create animated GIFs. Now this is something that's been spotted in the beta versions of the new Facebook app, but they will enable you to create a short little animated looping GIF with text or caption overlays. It's another way to create some creative content, which is fantastic. Be interesting to see if this is rolled out to the masses. Obviously Facebook are testing things all of the time. Not everything they test makes it into production, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And certainly I can make some animated GIFs of the cat destroying things behind me. Anyway, Twitter is up next, and Twitter have a new CFO. Now this is an interesting one. So Ned Siegel, who's ex-Intuit, the accounting software, and before that, he's a very experienced man. He had 16 years at Goldman Sachs, I don't know, you know, the Goldman place that does financial stuff that CFOs understand, that place. Anyway, Ned is an incredibly experienced, incredibly talented guy. He's come on board as their CFO. Now, he's not replacing anybody, he's replacing the function of CFO. And for what I mean, currently Anthony, and I'm sorry Anthony, I'm going to butcher your name here, but Anthony Noto, or Noto, or N-O-T-O, you work out how to pronounce it. Anthony has operated as the combined COO and CFO since 2014. So now Twitter have a dedicated CFO, which is actually a step in the right direction. I mean, Twitter are still trying to find out how to be profitable. This is a good starting point, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. Twitter, we do love you, but just please get profitable. Anyway, interesting to note that Ned is being gifted $15 million worth of Twitter shares to come on board as the CFO, which, hey Cole, that would be around what it takes me to become a CFO. That and the insanity of whoever's hiring me, because I'm not a CFO and I'd make a terrible one at that. Anyway, see, I told you, center of attention. Twitter users, this is a great story. Twitter users are suing the US President Donald J. Trump. I'm not kidding you, and it's not for the reasons you're probably thinking right now. It's not because he's an orange-faced troll that loves to tear apart people on social media and be, you know, just generally mean and bullyish. It's actually because he has blocked them on Twitter. Now, this is an interesting conversation to start, and one I'm going to keep an eye on here. Essentially, what they're saying is that it's unconstitutional to block them. Are you reading the notes, are you? Okay, well, you give your opinion in a sec. It's unconstitutional for him to block them on Twitter because anything the president says is essentially public record. And as we know, this US president, who I'm as surprised as you are, is actually the president, loves to release things and loves to talk about things on Twitter, which means these people do not have the same level of access to information that the rest of us do. Now, they've formed together as an organization, and they filed the lawsuit on Tuesday. Now, they are calling themselves, and this is awesome, the Knight, yes, with a K, First Amendment Institution of Columbia University. Seriously, I want to be part of an organization that has Knight with a K in the title. Then I could own a car that talks to me, and I could go around solving crime. Oh. Anyway, next, Twitter is helping us. This is a very ironic news story considering what I just talked about. But anyway, Twitter is helping us rid the world of trolls. Yes, unfortunately not orange-faced ones. But anyway, Twitter have now given us the ability to mute accounts that are either new to Twitter or that don't follow you. So this is a step in the right direction, particularly for our female friends who If you aren't aware of this, guys, seriously, a lot of us live under a rock. Just spend a day in the shoes of any woman on social media and you will understand the abuse that gets hurled their way. It is genuinely disheartening and makes you no longer want to be a man. But anyway, this is a step in the right direction, and you can access this through your notification settings under advanced filters, and essentially gives you the ability to turn off any notifications from those particular people. It's a good thing. Next up, Snapchat. Yes, we couldn't forget Snapchat. They have rolled out a function which has actually made marketers get very excited, and this is rolled out globally as of right now. It is called Paper Clips, and essentially when you create your 10-second snap, it allows you to put a link in there for further information. It allows you to give further information about whatever it is you're talking about. So for example, if you are doing a 10-second snap on a new product or on a service, you can have a hyperlink in there which goes to more information about that. It's genuinely a step in the right direction, and you can access that through the vertical toolbar on the right hand side. That one. This is my right hand on that side. Anyway, have a look at that. I'd be keen to hear from anyone that's actually going to be using that. In fact, keen to hear from anyone who's doing marketing on Snapchat. I can't say I've done anything on Snapchat personally, but it is something that really interests me. So if you've done anything, I want to hear about it. Make sure you use those comments below or hit us up on social media. Next up, WhatsApp. I'm a little mixed on this story. So WhatsApp are now allowing us to share any file types up to 100 megabytes. Look, this is an interesting one, and I certainly can understand why they would want to allow us to do this. But the first thing that came to my mind is probably the first thing that came to your mind is what a great way to share malware and ransomware, and a great way to affect other people's mobiles. Somebody's going to exploit this at some point. It's just obvious this is going to happen. But anyway, the examples that are given to me on how this could be a good thing, because really I struggled to see this, is in areas where there is applications that have been banned. So for example, in China and Saudi Arabia and Russia, there are certain applications where the state has kind of controlled that and made it so they're not available, so that you don't have access to them. But through WhatsApp, you can share those applications, you can share access to them through this new feature. But again, all I can see is malware and ransomware. Anyway, next up, LinkedIn. Yeah, they're still a thing. LinkedIn have started letting people use video that plays automatically without the sound on. So I'm not sure how this made my newsfeed, but LinkedIn have basically put Facebook video on LinkedIn. Anyway, they started on Thursday and testing it with a small number of people, and they're going to roll it out to everyone over the next few months. And yeah, anyway, look, I'm sure some people do marketing on LinkedIn. In fact, tell us below. Yeah, it's a thing. Anyway, what's going to be the next big social network? Glad you stuck around for this bit. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, thinking about what the new trends in social media are going to be. As we know, a lot of social media has taken a turn for, things like fake news. They're just a breeding ground for trolls. There's a lot of issues with social media. What's going to be the next innovation? What is going to be the next thing? And according to, and I want to get her name right here, Rebecca Moore, and if you haven't heard of Rebecca Moore, she is the director of Google Earth. She was at an event recently in Brazil and highlighted where they want to head with Google Earth, which is essentially to be the next big social network. What makes this really interesting is the fact that most social networks are structured around the concept of a timeline. In fact, every social network essentially is structured around some time-based thing. This would be structured around places. So essentially, we're here in Northern Wellington, New Zealand, on a very, very cold day, by the way. But for us, any videos, any imagery, any comments or stuff that I share on social media and Google Earth would be locked to this location. So essentially, when you are virtually traveling around the world and you think, what's in Northern, you would be able to see what I share, you'd be able to see what my neighbors share. That's not necessarily a good thing. Those guys on that side, really irritating. That side, lovely. So anyway, yes, it's an interesting concept. I'll be keen to see what happens to it. Is this something that's going to catch on? Is it going to fly? Is it something that's just going to be another Google Plus? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's all the news in social media. Next up, we're going to be looking at search. Okay, so let's have a look at all the new things in search. Whew, love doing that. All right, first up, not so much of a good story, but Google loses 20 days worth of data. Now, before you panic, this is only for people that have signed up to Google Search Console between June the 21st and July the 10th. So if you signed up to Google Search Console anytime between those dates, you could have lost up to 20 days worth of data. Now, Google have plugged the gap. See, he's upset about that. Google have plugged the gap. Unfortunately, though, that data will never be restored. That data is now in the big data farm in the sky, essentially. So Google came clean about it, which is awesome. They have fixed it, which is great. And to be honest, it's a bit of an unusual misstep from Google. There's not something that is happening regularly, which is a good thing because we kind of rely on Google Analytics, don't we? Anyway, next up for Google, not really anything to do with search, but it's to do with Google, and let's face it, Google our search. Google Maps will now tell you the best time of day for you to travel to your destination. So essentially on Google, when you search for a location and you want to map out your journey to there, what Google will do, they'll take into account the travel time, they'll take into account the traffic, they'll take into account parking availability as well, and they will tell you how long it's going to get to reach your destination, but they'll also tell you that if you leave half an hour earlier, you're actually going to get there an hour earlier, or if you leave later, how long it's going to take, etc., or if you want to leave later in the day. So an interesting one, genuinely useful, which is something we've come to agree, understand, come to know of Google. Anyway, I'm struggling for words here. But Google, good step in the right direction, certainly something that's going to be useful. Next up, still with Google, this is a landmark one at the moment, but Google have beaten the French government. No, I'm not talking at football. Google have beaten a lawsuit where the French government are seeking $1.3 billion in remedial tax. So essentially, if you're unaware, the way Google is structured, their head office, particularly for Europe, is located in Ireland, which have very good tax rates for companies, i.e. 12.5%. In direct opposition to that is France, which have 30% tax for companies. So France basically have said, look, this money that's going into Ireland, more of that should be in our hands. But the court has actually ruled no. France do not have enough autonomy from the Irish headquarters to be able to claw back that 1.3 billion in remedial tax. So this is an interesting one. It's one that certainly Facebook, Twitter, and every other cloud-based service, or certainly all the ones that are located in Ireland, which is most of them, one that they're all going to be watching very, very carefully to see what happens and what develops. Now, obviously, the French government are going to appeal this, and at the moment, Google are going, yay, but not too big a yay, because they know this is going to be a long and drawn-out fight. Anyway. That's all in search, believe it or not. It's been a light week in search this week. So next up, we have all your news in tech. Okay, let's have a look at what stories we have in tech. And going to start with a bit of a downer. Verizon have had a partner data breach. Now, what this is essentially is 6 million of Verizon's customers' data has been exposed. This is through a data breach from one of their business partners, which is NICE Systems, who basically facilitate all of their service calls. So if you've made a service call to, or a service inquiry to Verizon in the last 6 months, then you're probably part of those 6 million people that have had your data exposed. Now, fortunately, we don't have Verizon in New Zealand, and I say that fortunately on a number of fronts from what I've heard, but anyway. But this is a big deal, and the reason it's a big deal is not so much that the data was breached. Certainly people get hacked, we understand that, and hackers are getting more and more advanced, but this wasn't a hack. This was an unprotected Amazon S3 server, and yes, again, that's how data gets exposed. So please, can we just all agree that this shouldn't be a thing in this day and age? Like, seriously, this is a human error. This is somebody who set up a drive wrong and shouldn't have happened. So yeah, I don't want to read those stories out anymore. Please, just secure your Amazon S3 servers. Let's just not be Muppets, all right? Next up, again, not the best of news. SoundCloud. We love SoundCloud. SoundCloud is a fantastic service. If you haven't heard of it, it's a great way to discover music and bands and weird crap from all over the world. It's an awesome service. It's also a podcasting service, not one I've used personally. It kind of treats podcasts a little differently than iTunes and the other platforms, so I'm not really too keen on it in that front. But it is a good service, but unfortunately they are in trouble at the moment. So this week, and I'm going to butcher their names here, Alex Leung and Eric Woff. I'm not even going to attempt that. Alex and Eric, there you go. Alex and Eric, their directors, held a global meetings. They had a big dial-in from each of the different regions from SoundCloud offices. And unfortunately, while they're doing the dial-in, in came the security guards as well, as Alex and Eric announced that 40% of their staff is going to be laid off. That's 173 people. And look, this is never a good thing. These are people's livelihoods. These are people who have given up roles, given up locations and moved to various areas so they could take a role at SoundCloud, who now no longer have a job. I don't even joke about this kind of stuff. It's never a good time for anyone. But unfortunately, the really concerning part of this is the fact that those mass amounts of layoffs are only going to give them runway until Q4 this year. That is a very short amount of runway for a significant step like that. Look, companies can bounce back from this, and I certainly hope SoundCloud do, and we hope they're around for a long time in maybe a various form or one or another. I don't know, but it's not a good sign. Now, SoundCloud have come out and said, look, we're not in trouble. We're going to be around, but coming from the tech industry and certainly coming from a company that's had to do multiple rounds of investment, this is something that would concern me greatly. Anyway, on more positive front, Oculus, yes, our favorite VR, or one of our favorite VR platforms, and Xiaomi, I can barely pronounce my own name here, Xiaomi, the Chinese manufacturer that does cool stuff. They have teamed up, they have combined to create a $200 VR headset. But wait, not just a headset, a fully self-contained headset, which they're going to be shipping in 2018. Now, I don't know if you understand what this means. So essentially at the moment, VR headsets are tethered to one of two things. They're either tethered to your phones, which are limited, or it's tethered to a PC or a computer. And essentially, if you've ever tried to use VR on a computer, which if you ask my son, he will explain to you why I need to spend around 10 grand on a computer, apparently, needs really high-spec computers to run these things effectively. This is $200 US for a self-contained VR headset. Now, it's going to be slimmer than the Oculus, it's going to be slimmer than the Samsung VR headset, and it's going to have better graphics, which is just mind-blowing. And it's mind-blowing for two reasons. One, because I really, really want one, but also because it's a step in the right direction. It means that people are taking VR very seriously, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the competitor space. But either way, us as consumers are going to win on this front, and us as digital marketers, it means the more people have their hands on VR, the more chance for us to do some really, really cool stuff with VR. So watch this space on that. Next up, rumor mills. We love rumors. iOS 11. Now, beta users have said that there is a hint of a live streaming feature within iOS 11. Yes, apparently they've seen a button on there called Start Broadcast. That's literally the only thing we've got there, but we can obviously, like everyone else, we can speculate that means you can share your screen, or you can share your camera, or you can start broadcasting anywhere, and apparently that's a good thing because you can never get enough of our lives. Anyway, interesting to see if that comes to fruition. Next up, I'm very excited about this, Amazon working on a messaging app called Anytime. Now, this is a rumor that's come around from AFTV News. They have been given screenshots of a survey for Amazon customers that certainly looks like it's come from Amazon. We're not saying it has, but essentially it's testing the concept of an Anytime messenger app. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to A, whether this is legit or not, but B, would Amazon even be wanting to work in this area? But I think that they potentially would for two reasons. There's two kind of key areas I think that this kind of messenger app can fit. The first is, when you think of Amazon, we obviously think of Amazon Store, buying lots of geekery and stuff like that for our office, or buying Whole Foods and all the other cool stuff they do, and drones. But Amazon are also AWS, which is the most profitable part of their business. So AWS is the cloud servers that other people like Verizon's business partners don't seem to secure. But anyway, having some form of messenger app for the enterprise solutions is really interesting to me. It'll be interesting to see if it can compete with the likes of Slack, which I know is not technically a messenger app, but Slack, Link, and some of the other solutions that are out there. I think the market is actually open to something new to come in, and I think Amazon could be the one to deliver it. The second thing there, and the second intriguing thing for me, is one of the other focuses we know Amazon for is the Amazon Echo, the Amazon Echo Dot, the Amazon Echo Show, essentially an AI personal assistant that we have in our homes to control our lives. And having a form of inbuilt messenger for that is something that I find a little bit intriguing, like the ability for me to sit in the office and go, I'm not going to say it on air just in case you've got one in the background, but ALEX, see, I can't even spell. Anyway, that thing, order me a pizza, or instead of order me a pizza, rather, message my wife and tell her I want pizza for tonight, which sadly, I can already picture the reply, which is no. Anyway, now I'm depressed. Anyway, interesting to see. I think it's a good thing, and I genuinely hope that they are working on a messaging app. Anyway, next up, the story you've all been waiting for. Yes, I looked at this and thought, this is a really clickbaity title, but it genuinely is true. There's nothing clickbaity about it. It is KFC are making a smartphone. And seriously, I can't make this kind of stuff up. So apparently it's to celebrate KFC being in China for 30 years. So yep, being there, helping them to be as obese as the rest of the world for the last 30 years. And it's a limited edition phone that's going to come in red on the back with Colonel's face and 1987 written on it, which of course is the year that they started polluting the stomachs and arteries and hearts of the Chinese people. So the only interesting thing to come out of this in all reality is the fact it's going to have a service called K Music, which isn't really that exciting, but allows you to choose the music that you want to hear in one of the 4,000 odd obesity restaurants throughout China. So there you go. Now, if that phone is anything like actual KFC, it's probably going to smell fantastic, but it's going to taste disgusting. And after you've used it, you're going to feel a little sick on the inside. Because, you know, chicken and phones, somehow that's a natural fit. Anyway, that's all in tech. Next up, what's new in AI? All right, next up, let's have a look at everything in AI. Now, this is genuinely quite exciting. Microsoft have announced AI for Earth. Essentially what this is, Microsoft have a huge amount of resource in AI available, and they are making this available to any organizations who are doing work in, say, biodiversity, water conservation, climate change research. Any of those organizations can apply to Microsoft for up to $2 million worth of funding through access to all of this AI. So essentially they want to help the planet with machine learning. Look, this is a fantastic initiative, and Microsoft, we applaud you. Awesome work. Next up, Google. This doesn't sound as exciting on the surface, but trust me on this one. Bear with me. Google are using AI to create stunning landscape pictures. Now, essentially what they're doing here is, we all know Street View, take photos of various regions, take photos as they're driving along, etc. Google is using their AI to analyze those photos and to stitch together professional quality photos of landscapes. And we are talking so professional here that professional photographers have even been fooled by them. The reason this is exciting is because generally with any kind of machine learning, it's a binary kind of decision. It's a black or white, it's an A or B, it's a 1 or 2. So AI needs to make decisions based on these. But this is AI learning to make subjective decisions. So essentially looking at, first of all, it has to understand what makes a good photo. Like what makes a good, so it analyzes our behavior, what we like, what we rate, etc. Analyzes all of this, looks at it to determine what we think is a professional quality photo, and then it makes the decisions on how to transform these Street View images into these kind of professional photos. That is exciting, and that blows my mind. So awesome, and obviously this is not where they want to head with this. They're not actually creating something to make photos. They are using this as a tool to be able to teach AI how to make subjective decisions. That is fantastic, although again it's a step towards the robot apocalypse or Skynet, and yeah, I don't know why I'm so excited about this. I should probably be fearful. And lastly, in AI, Microsoft's accessibility app. This is genuinely one of the best examples of AI I've ever heard of. So this came off the back of building on the smart glasses concept, which Microsoft brought out a couple of years ago. But essentially what happens is this narrates what's in front of you, it narrates what's around you for the visually impaired. So essentially, this AI can determine what objects are, what street signs are, it can read those out to you, it can read out my little stupid post-it notes here of what's coming up in the news. It can translate all of this for the wearer. It can distinguish people that are in front of them. It can give you an approximate age of these people. It can tell you their, actually I'm not sure if it can tell you their gender. It tells you their age, approximate age, and their emotion. So it reads their expressions. So it can say, you're going into the boss's office and she looks angry, run. This is genuinely exciting. Probably, as I said, one of the best uses of AI. From an accessibility perspective, this is a huge step in the right direction for the visually impaired, and I can't wait to see what else happens on that front. So that is everything in AI, and as I said, really exciting. Right, next up, let's have a look at AllTheGeek's Muppet of the Week. Now, in this segment of the show, we are going to look at somebody who has just embarrassed themselves this week, or made some kind of stupid decision, or done something that is worthy of the Muppet title. And this is no disrespect to any actual Muppets out there. You guys are amazing. This week, now bearing in mind, we are trying to avoid using Trump for any of these, because otherwise he'll be reigning champion and we don't want to give him the satisfaction. This week it actually goes to the Australian Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull. Malcolm, you get our Muppet of the Week for your new legislation where you're trying to force social media applications, messaging applications to essentially decrypt, unencrypt, remove the encryption of any of their data. So any of the conversations that people are having within this, having within the platform. Now, this is the thought behind this, certainly the thinking behind it is a good thing. So essentially, they want to be able to identify terrorist activity. They want to identify any kind of sexual predators or pedophiles or anything like that out there. For that, we applaud you. However, the original recommendation around this, we do not applaud you for, and that is you wanted them to build backdoors into their encryption, backdoors into the applications, so that if the security services in Australia wanted to, they could have access to it. Fortunately, you have redeemed yourself slightly by removing that from the legislation you're putting forward. That's a great step, but not before you got awarded the Muppet of the Week, because, wait, we've heard this before, haven't we? Oh, that's right, the NSA backdoors. And what did they get used for? Oh, that's right, WannaCry. Anyone heard of that? Any of the other ransomware attacks with Petya, other such kind of exploits that are using that NSA backdoor to access the system. So, Muppet of the Week, Malcolm, give us a call to receive your trophy. And lastly, we want to highlight our Tech Find of the Week. This is legitimately something that I can now no longer do without. If you are the type of person like me who has about 1 billion tabs open in Chrome at any point in time, then you will want to get your hand on this Chrome extension. It is called the Great Suspender, and essentially, look, just search within Google Chrome extension store, you know where I'm talking about. Search within there for the Great Suspender. It allows you to suspend all tabs. So essentially, if you've got those 1 billion tabs open, you can just click on the button and say suspend all tabs except this one. You can whitelist tabs if you say I don't want Facebook suspended. Those cat videos are really important. Or you don't want Google apps suspended for various reasons. Any of those kind of things you can whitelist and they won't get suspended. But this is a huge resource saver for me. I'm in dire need of upgrading a couple of my systems here, which I'm going to be doing this year. And until then, I can't live without this app. So anyway, that's it for us. That is your digital marketing news for the week ending on the 16th of July, 2017. Make sure you give us a like down below. Make sure you comment. Let us know your stories that resonated with you, stories you thought were a bit pathetic, stuff you want changed. I'm always open to insults and trolling. No, I'm open to constructive criticism. But also hit that subscribe button. And if you want to follow us on social media, we would love to hear from you. Then go to allthegeek.com. click on the connect menu item and you'll see all of our social networks there you can connect with us on, as well as Patreon. If you want to show your support and your love for this channel, you want to show your support and love for these videos, then you can donate to us through Patreon. We would love and very much appreciate your support. Hey, I'm Vince Warnock. I'm Just the Geek. You guys, you've been absolutely incredible. Till next time. And what a nice timing for the light to die on me. There you go. We only had enough charge for one video. Peace.